Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Bellott, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Jon Clark. Jon is the father of three. He's an entrepreneur who believes businesses should support life, not compete with it. He's the co-founder of the Optimization Specialist, where he helps business owners streamline their operations so business can run without everything depending on them. Welcome, Jon. Great to see you today.
Yeah, really excited to be here, Bill.
Yeah, so the Optimization Specialist, this company, I looked a little bit about this. Is this? It looked like it was processes and things around AI. Is that where it is? Is it like AI assistance, or is it something more than that, Jon?
Yeah, so AI is a part of it, and that's really only become a part of it. This isn't one of those businesses that, popped up this year because of AI, but we've definitely started leveraging it. Really, we've been in business now for the last 3 years, and it started really with a focus on project management. So Monday.com or ClickUp, that was like our big phase. But we also added in contact management, so CRMs, right? And so really at the end of the day, we are trying to help those business owners scale their business, but without the business being dependent on them.
Nice.
Kind of taking a page out of the E-Myth, right? Of like, let's make sure that your team can kind of run this without you, and you didn't just build yourself this other 40 or 50 hour a week job.
Right. That's awesome. So you're sort of upskilling the people that are actually doing the work so that the owner can continue to expand the business, do strategy or whatever is necessary. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, exactly. Like the famous phrase of "we want to help you work on your business instead of in it." Right. So that way, if you want to be the salesperson, you can, but that would mean that the rest of your team should be able to handle the accounting and all of like the other day-to-day stuff, right? Like you don't want to be the accountant and the marketer and the salesperson. So that way they can scale the business, spend more time with family. That's my favorite thing. When you get the more time back, but it's really making sure your team is also as efficient as possible, right? Like you hire these really smart people, but if they're stuck using all these weird outdated technologies or always updating the data entry to make sure you have time for the meeting next Monday, then they're not able to do what you hired them for.
Right.
And so with those systems in place, you really have that really well-oiled machine at the end of the day.
Yeah, I totally feel that. Like, my business, I'm a solo entrepreneur, so that means I'm a one-man band here. And so you're doing everything from making coffee to accounting to, strategy and everything in between. But when you have people and stuff, they need tools, and you need to give them the resources in order so they can do their best. And if you're spending time, even if you're just spending time like you're talking about, trying to figure out what tools should I give my people, that can take a lot of effort. And you're kind of like, okay, do I know this technology the best to pick out the best thing? So that sounds like where you guys can kind of come in and really make a big difference. It's like, hey, you should be using this kind of stuff. This will make everybody's life a lot easier.
Yeah, 100%. And really, too, when it comes to, we work with some businesses that might think that they have to hire more people to support, right? So they're starting to scale. Maybe they're growing 50% or more year over year. They're like, okay, well, if I want to double my business, I want to double my staff.
Right.
And if you get the right systems in place, I mean, you might still have to hire a couple people, but not have to double that. Right. And so, especially today with AI, as we know, it's making ourselves more efficient. But if you use that with your systems, now your people are more efficient. So now maybe the team you had last year, it gets an extra 50% efficiency, and you don't have to hire as many people. We're not in the game of replacing people, but we're definitely in the game of like, how do we get more out of the people that we currently have on staff?
Absolutely. And, anything you can make, where people have more time to do what they're good at versus, what I would call administrivia, where it's like, okay, I have to do this because of these things, but this is not where I want to spend most of my time. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I assume you guys also are like looking at the processes, like what processes could be improved with the business also to kind of take off some of that extra administrative load for people.
Yeah, 100%. You got it. I mean, we will do kind of audits on people's. Okay. A lot of it is technology,
right?
But sometimes you just realize that these teams are doing things that could be automated, right? I take information from application A and enter it into application B, or we're typing all these numbers into a spreadsheet for a report for our weekly meeting. And if you have the systems in place, a lot of times you track what you're doing, and then on Monday the dashboards show you exactly what that information is. So you're not trying to force the information into something, you just do your day-to-day, and then you have visibility all across the board.
Right. And I think that's, it sounds like you've got a good system to kind of marry project management with tracking, with KPI, with, I'd say a knowledge dashboard type thing. Yep. That's awesome, because that's a struggle for, whether you're a small business or a very large business. And the big thing I've always seen is like trying to figure out what things do you track and what don't you track. What's actually giving you good measures, and what's just measuring it because you can.
Yeah, we run into that, and a lot of times when we're looking at things, we do want to understand what metrics they want to track, but sometimes it's just like all of the good metrics. And if you use a project management system like Monday, you also want to understand how often are we missing deadlines, right? Like you want to know ahead of time, but most people don't realize until the fire's already burning, and you kind of want to see when things start to smoke.
Right. Yeah, and I haven't used Monday. I've used other types of systems, but it's those systems, at least the ones I use, are very dependent on whether people keep them up to date. And so it's kind of like, it's like you said, sometimes you can have something on fire and it's not in the systems because people just haven't updated it yet. And, it's kind of like, okay, how helpful is this system now if we're not keeping it up to date and we still have these problems here,
Yeah, that's a big thing too, because if you have all these applications, you get application fatigue. Each team or sometimes each person kind of has their own way of doing things. So that person as an individual is killing it,
right?
But you can't get KPIs on what that person is doing because they're not using like this central management system. So that's another piece of it, is like getting buy-in from your team. But at the end of the day or the end of the month, whatever you want to say, now the whole team understands what's happening. You're cutting down on communication too.
Right.
If you have to message people every week, like, hey, what's the status of this? Like, that's disruptive.
Correct.
And so if you can just do what you need to do every day, and I can check in on that, it really helps with efficiency.
Yeah. So what kind of businesses kind of do you target? Is it more of like I've seen a lot of project management stuff in sort of the construction industry, obviously, but there are a lot of other places that use that. Who are you kind of working with, or what industries you're working with right now?
Yeah, up till about now, we've really worked across the board. I work with CPAs. We're building with a construction company. Yeah. Here locally in Somerville, we work with an alterations business that's more on just like tracking orders and things like that. But really, our sweet spot are like agencies or professional services with teams of about 5 to 20.
Oh, cool.
And like when you have that many people, there's a lot to manage, as we kind of said. There's different teams at that point. And so you're creating those systems in place so that you have that visibility and then they have that reporting. So that's really our sweet spot. And that's where we can kind of build both a project management system and a CRM at the same time, send the information back and forth, and then you have everybody kind of in one application versus 6 applications doing their own thing.
So I haven't done a lot with the CRM, which is contact relationship management, right? Is that
yep,
correct?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm always bad at acronyms. I know what they mean, but yes, contact relationship management.
Thank you. We several businesses back, I've seen people use like things like Salesforce and other types of tools. How does that, how does that change a business? I've never seen anybody kind of explain this well. It's like, okay, why should we do this versus what we're doing right now? What is the impact on a business? What do you tell people when you're like, hey, you should really think about doing a CRM for your stuff?
Yeah, it really depends on what game you're in, but really once you start using a CRM, especially when you build in automations, for one, you are not letting leads slip through the cracks, right? A lot of times it's in a salesperson's head and it's like, oh, I got to follow up with George on Thursday. And then life happens, work happens, and you forget to follow up with George and you lose the customer. So that's really good. Or there's leads that are a no today, but might be a yes in 6 months from now. So that's really helpful to kind of have that and go back on things. And then I always use the dentist example. Every time I go to my dentist, they know my whole life story, right? But they see how many people a day. And so they keep all of those notes, and like it's a great customer experience to go through and feel like they know who you are. But I know that morning my dentist went through and looked at all of his notes for his 6 or 10 patients that day, and that's how they are. But like once you understand more about those clients, and if you create new offers in the future, said, hey, this is a business of this size, doesn't quite match our mega offer today, but if we create like a smaller offer a year from now, I could go back and potentially, reach out to them, or, newsletters, all of those things. But if you have all of it, a spreadsheet could technically be a CRM, but you really want something that you can communicate through. So at any point in time, I can see like, what are our past emails, text message, phone call conversations. So it really puts a lot of energy and just like tracking around all of the interactions you have with your leads and your customers.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me now that I've heard it that way, because I understand that. Like sometimes when you talk to someone or some organization, you'll have emails with one or multiple people. You may have phone calls, all of these things. And like you said, they get spread everywhere. They're all over your desk. They're all over your computer. And the next time you talk to them, the likelihood of you pulling that all together magically and remembering all that's pretty low. So that having stuff in one place where it kind of gets across, it's like people who manage like social media platforms and they have multiple social media instances. If you don't get all that together, it's very difficult to track and everything. Do you get a little bit into that side of business also, where they may have communications types or social media type presences where they have different processes, different tools? Do you guys touch that at all?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. We've built out, we built a ClickUp project management for a social media management company so they could track, kind of all the posts for all of their clients.
Yeah.
From a communication perspective, we typically do a lot of automations for clients. The CRM that we have, you can schedule social media.
Okay.
But the big one is kind of like email drips and things like that, right? We've all been there where you go to a landing page and said, give me your email and I'll give you a free ebook.
Right.
And then from there, the next 6 months, you get an email once a month or something like that. So that's where it's really powerful, because especially in a world where we have ads in front of our faces and all the time, like you're just, it's very hard to get attention. So if you can automate all of that, so you have 100 people download your ebook this month, you can keep up with them.
Right.
And so that's the other place where a CRM becomes really powerful.
That's cool. That is really cool. So, what is kind of like your strategy for your business here? Is like, do you think, is there opportunities here in the Charleston area? If you have one of the things I think about here, I talk to a lot of small businesses, entrepreneurs here in Charleston, is like, they do have like that number you're talking about, 5, maybe 10, maybe 20 folks. And they may be interested in like, hey, we definitely need this CRM thing. Or we definitely need some AI assistance because, we need some help. But the next question is going to be like, well, we don't really have anybody that's an expert in any of these areas. How do we take care of this, and who's going to maintain it? How do you kind of help folks with that,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it starts with that audit first. My business partner, Christy, the phrase she uses all the time, and it's 100% true, is it's hard to read the label when you're inside of the jar. Right? Because sometimes I think as entrepreneurs, especially with online, like we all think that we need to be working as hard as possible. This is just a part of owning a business, is like sweating late nights and all this and that. Like, so why did you get into business? Was it to live this life, or was it to live more like of a flexible life? So anyway, we'll do that audit piece. And really at the end of the day, because we are your technology partner, my biggest goal is to build the system so you know how to use it. Like I build all the back end stuff, but we kind of use the analogy of a car, right? To make a car go, there's a lot of stuff happening underneath that hood to go.
Right.
But all you really do is you use two pedals, three, I guess if it's a manual car, but like, one to make it go and one to make it stop. So that's really where we try to leave it at the end of the day. In project management systems, we typically try to bring in one person that is kind of your, maybe not an expert, but like your ambassador or your champion for that. So Monday.com champion. So they know enough that if something's acting kind of funny or an automation isn't working, they could look at it. But we also have support packages.
Oh, cool.
Because there's plenty of clients where it's like, hey, you built this for me. I understand enough, but I could go spend 30 minutes online trying to find this, or I could just email John and he'll solve it in 5 minutes. And that's typically the way it is. When I'm in it, day in and day out, like I can do it, like, I know it like the back of my hand. So that's a great piece too, because back to, if you read a book like Buy Back Your Time, like, outsource the stuff to make that you don't want to do, and you get to keep focusing on the things you do want to do. But when you get that buy-in, like now your team's more efficient. Yeah,
that's awesome, because having the ability to fix a little bit of stuff yourself and having reach back to deeper expertise, that's what everybody needs, especially as a small business. It's like, okay, do I need to hire somebody to go with this system now? It's like, okay, that didn't solve my problem. That created a new one for me that I have to think about in a different way. Have you seen, this is maybe a little bit reaching type question, but have you seen businesses be able to offer new opportunities, new services because of what you've given them?
Yeah, I mean, it gives them more power to think of new things. So I don't have exact examples of maybe they were able to offer a new thing, but I do know that they're growing.
Okay.
Because the systems that we build this year, a year later, they'll come back to us and say, hey, John, we've grown. Our systems need to kind of change to grow with that.
Nice.
And so we always recommend to clients that they review their systems every 6 to 12 months, making sure you're bringing in those team members. A lot of times we talk to managers or owners, and they're like, yeah, the systems are pretty good. And you go and talk to the people on the ground, and they're like, this is like the bane of my existence, right? They're like, why do I have to enter this information into these 5 systems, or I'm using something different than my coworker and things like that. But we've seen time saved, right? Like on average, our clients are saving for the owner at least 8 to 10 hours a week, which is huge, right? So again, you could reinvest that back into the business. You can spend more time with family. So we probably need to do a better job from like a marketing perspective of saying, hey, this company was now able to go make an extra whatever a year, but really we're focusing more on like that efficiency side of things, which does turn into money, right? Hourly wages times hours gives you that money saved.
Yeah, but here I also hear, because we live here in the Charleston area, I think, the huge value proposition you've got is you get to spend more time with your family and friends and live your life. That's a great value proposition. So have you always lived in Charleston, or are you new here? I'm new here, so. I'm going January of 26 will be 10 years. Oh, wow.
So I moved down here in 2016 from Ohio. I know how that gets a little bit of a bad rap, but from Northeast Ohio.
We love Ohio at our house. I have to say go Bucks at least once a week. Just my wife's from Ohio.
Now my kids, at this point are really Charleston natives, which is cool. So they don't have to, they could say my family's from Ohio, but they're originally from here. But yeah, we've been down here now for almost 10 years and absolutely love it.
Nice. Yeah, we moved here in 2021, and it's been going great so far, and it's a really interesting, welcoming kind of place. People are very much into family and living and all that. So I really like your value proposition for the business, which is like giving people back time to do to live their life versus just doing more because it has to be done, not because there isn't a better way,
Yeah. When I graduated college, my first job out of college was as a software developer at this financial company. And I put everything into it, right? Because like we grow up thinking like you got to be the best worker,
right?
And very quickly realized that just was not sustainable and it wasn't healthy. And so it helped moving down here because I think life moves at a slower pace down here in a positive way,
right?
So I very quickly kind of started creating those boundaries of I can't work till 8 o'clock at night and do all these different things. And I knew it was a great place down here when traffic starts backing up at like 12 on a Friday, right?
Right.
Or you go to like Reds on Shem Creek and people are, non-tourists, like locals are already
they're
they're done with the day.
Yeah.
Especially all those real estate agents. They're like, Friday at noon, I'm kind of clocking out and starting to enjoy my weekend, which is a great culture to live in.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, we before we moved here, we spent almost 2 decades up in the Washington D.C. area, and there's a bit of workaholic type culture up there, a bit, and so it's a big relief to kind of be in a little bit slower culture that's more focused on living a full life, not just doing business all the time. But it's what's been really exciting is that the entrepreneurial spirit here in Charleston is like crazy alive. I mean, so many people are just really trying so many amazing things, and how's that kind of impacting what you're doing, and how you do your business?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easy to meet people. Charleston was definitely larger than where I lived in Ohio, but from a business perspective, it's also a small community, right? You bump into somebody at one networking event, and then you see them at another networking event with a different group, or especially the recurring events like with the chamber and stuff. You can very quickly see the same people, which has been really good. And I think as for my business, as we start to try to build more partnerships, it's going to be a lot easier here in Charleston. My business partner, she lives in San Antonio.
Oh, cool.
She works out of a co-working space. So she is building our authority and reputation kind of over there. She's our salesperson. I'm more of the tech guy, but I'm definitely going to start leaning into more of the Charleston space here and just getting the right things, how to learn how to talk about my business. People used to think that I did like that SEO stuff and everything else with the optimization name. But building a community here has been really easy. And I'm looking forward to kind of leaning into that because, to your point, there are so many business owners here.
Yeah.
And we all want to live that lifestyle where we're at Shem on Friday afternoon. So pretty low-hanging fruit from a value prop, to your point earlier, here in Charleston.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, how would you describe what you and your company does to someone around here? Why should I call Jon or your business partner and say, hey, we need some help? What's gonna be like the thing that's gonna resonate to someone around here?
Yeah, the fun and easy one I think to resonate with is helping business owners like scale their business without their business being dependent on them.
Yeah.
The other thing we used to say that we're trying to dial in a little bit more is like our goal is to save you time, money, and energy.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I dig in more to that psychology piece of like you started this business for a reason, it might have been financial, it might have been freedom. Freedom is one that's very easy to dial into because many of us have built businesses that are just a new job, right? It might pay a little bit better, but it's still like that fully dependent on you. And as I've built flexibility into my life, I've met other business owners with that flexibility. Like there's a different level of I'll say happiness. Happiness is kind of a strong word, but there's just a different level there. And so the biggest challenge with our business is people aren't always searching for our business because they think every business owner is kind of struggling with this. They're wearing the 10 hats. Like that's almost like a pride of, there's pride in wearing all 10 of those hats. Right. But to me, the pride is saying I work 20 hours a week and my business continues to thrive. And so that's really where we can kind of dial in and look at that. But as soon as I have a conversation with a business owner, they're like, Jon, I've needed you for the last 2 years. But they don't really Google search how to optimize my business or how to save time. It's just how do I get more money, in my business, or how do I get more customers type deal. And so we kind of come from that other angle of, if we give you more time, maybe you can go get those new customers, or you just have more time back with your family.
What I would say, what pops into my head when you say this is like, with all the entrepreneurs I've talked to around here, I'd say, if someone asked me, said, well, why should you call Jon? I said, well, if you want space and time to think about the next business you're going to start, this will help you out. Because, I've talked to so many folks and like, they're entrepreneurs experience. Yes, they love the business they're doing now, but if they had a little bit of time, they'd probably start another one. It's like I've seen people get addicted to like they call them serial entrepreneurs, and it seems like there's a lot of those folks around here.
yeah, and I mean, in one breath they're saying I don't have enough time, but they're also looking at that next big thing.
Right.
So you need those systems in place, and we've even gone as far as like when it comes time to sell, having those systems in place. If you're looking to sell your business at some point, business owners that are buying love turnkey systems.
Absolutely.
Or turnkey operations. So like that builds a lot. Or even if you continue to grow, you can be semi-retired.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you have those right systems in place and you can train your people the right way, you can step away and have those 2 weeks of vacation, right? Like that's kind of a litmus test. If you can take 2 weeks vacation without your business, calling you every hour, then like you've got an amazing team and amazing systems in place. But if you can't go a day, if you can't take a Friday off to spend time with your kids and without the business calling, like there's a lot of opportunity there.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I've talked to folks that are kind of in the business of selling and making partnerships of businesses, and when they hear the words, "Oh, this is kind of turnkey," that makes that a lot easier. I've talked to folks that do exit strategy type work, where it's like, okay, maybe you're going to retire out of this business, or you're going to sell this business off. Have you thought about what would need to be in place for that to happen? Even folks that have a family business, been in their family for, a couple generations, how do you pass it to the next generation? All of those things. And you need space and time to really be able to think about how to do that well. So I love the idea of all the things you're doing, because you're giving people back that opportunity, and they can do with it whatever they want, obviously. So you've been in business for 3 years in this space. So, not exactly a startup, a baby startup, but, still very young. So what would you, based on what you've learned so far, what would you advise other entrepreneurs out there in the Charleston area?
Yeah, I think understanding what you truly want your business, or really even more your lifestyle to be. That took me a while. I've being an entrepreneur and always focused on personal development. It was like, how do I get more, like always kind of chasing like the next big thing,
right? And
trying to understand more now of like what is enough is a struggle at times, because it's always just better, right? But trying to understand what you want your business to do for you, I think is really powerful. And I mean, it's kind of positive to me, to the fact that like our business can help you potentially achieve that. But I think if we're going into business for ourselves, there is that opportunity of freedom, and just trying to figure out exactly how to get your business to help you build that is really like the dream state, right? Like that's the level of success, is when you have that great balance between the two.
That's nice. I love that. That is a great statement. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jon. I'd love to have you back on. I know you have another business that's a local business. It's the Twisted Tide Beverage Company here in the Charleston area. I'd love to have you back on and talk about that. I'm sure there's a few folks that have enjoyed that around this area. And any other topic you want to talk about, happy to have you on. So thank you so much for everything today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Bellot, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of Lowcountry innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.